I've got a few things I have to go over. Uh, can I see some notes,
Hey, Wes,
Eliezer?
hey, Wes, can you put your camera on?
Oh,
There you go.
yeah, I got to get my other ones all hooked up. My plans is 2 computers, and wasn't getting it done. So now I have it back, and so I can work on that today. Okay, so I have. Okay, I'll make a couple quick announcements. One thing is can I see your notes, Eliezer? Uh, okay, Giorgio?
Yes.
Let's see, who else is out there? Okay, all right. All right,
Ray's the
all right.
only one else out there right now.
Okay. What about, are you reading Proverbs? Are you guys reading Proverbs? Are you making a list of questions?
Yes, questions. Here, questions.
Okay. These are important. These are very important because I gotta, that's part of your grade is your questions. And so that I can help change what needs to be changed on the questions. Because you have to be careful what you say and how you say it. When you got people in front of you, they may not say anything, but it can back them away. So questions is important. And making your list, and then I'll talk more about them as we go along. So you're not reading Proverbs, and sometimes the stories I make up for you to evaluate what I've received so far is you're changing the story from what I put out. So I'll put another story to you when we're done with the class today. I'll put another story out there for you to work on and turn in next week, or turn in on December 8th. And you're getting behind on turning in your assignments. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, one of the things I want to do, you don't have an outline on this, but I'm going to talk to you now about the middle phase of counseling. Some things to think about. The middle phase, PHASE, if I'm not speaking well, tell me, because I have to watch it with no teeth. I'm a gummer. The middle phase of counseling. After you start, your first one, you're going to evaluate yourself in counseling, because you got to want to make sure that what you're thinking is really going to work for them. And you may want to do some changing of your focus. Then I go along another session, 1 or 2 sessions. Generally by the 3rd session, I have another evaluation that I want to do. And this will be where you decide now if you think you're on target, if you think that you are there, or I need to quit here and do something else, or referral. So what I'm saying is that a good rule, guideline for a counselor, for me it is, some of those that have been counseling day in and day out, all day long and everything, will not do all of this, but they still will do a check on what they've been doing, the direction you're going with the people, and evaluate that. I think most everybody know how good they are, still do some of these same things. Number one, does the person have an understanding of himself, or does he accept himself? Sometimes one of the, whoever it is, the couple or single, really don't have a whole lot of confidence in themselves. So I want to see if I can really see and understand where he is at on his look at himself. Now that information, you may use it a little later, or you may use it right now. That's your decision on what when to do it. Because if he says, no, I'm not good, I'm not very smart, I'm not this or I'm not that, then I evaluate if I need to work on that now or a little bit later. Number two, are you arranging realistic goals? Now, it could be good goals, but it may not fit. Just because it sounds and looks good and you think it's right, and it may not necessarily fit for the needs of that counselee. Number three, does he have self-esteem?
Okay.
So you might want to work on it where, has he had that feeling all his life? Or is it something between the two, say like they get married, and sometimes one or the other, what we call beating up the other one, the partner. Sometimes the wife is the ruler of the house. The guy's self-esteem will not be where it should be. And you have that problem a lot in the Philippines. And I was going to ask you, are you checking with the Philippine government and the Philippine country over counselors and some of the problems they deal with? That would be good for you to know, because I'm an American, and I'm talking between an American and my knowledge of Filipinos, which it still don't make me Filipino. So the country, the government has a lot of information and any counselor there, and they're increasing all the time. The need for counselors is heavy there. So you get a good understanding of all that. And then you know, and there's a difference between somebody in a little barrio and those up in Manila. So there's a lot of difference in there. They may be Filipino, but they still have a lot of difference of self-esteem and self-pride. Number 4. Now remember, I call this the middle phase of counseling. Generally after the 3rd visit. But number 4 is, are there improved interpersonal relationships? If it's a man and wife, is there any progress? Do you see anything improving? Number 5 is, has the tension, the nervous time between parties, has it been reducing? Has it gone down? Is it less than it was when you started with them? Because if someone says, wife says, I hate him, or she's still no good, or whatever either one of them say, I want to find out if, is that less than when we started? Sometimes you almost got to go back and start all over. Number 6, or do you see a realistic or a real good outlook on life and see if it's developing? After you counsel a few marriages and they're failing and people separate, this is where you can begin to see that they never developed any realistic lifestyle or goals. And it was never there. A lot of people get married and I know from counseling and the ones I'm thinking of that I work with in Manila, is that the couple, oh boy, it's I love him, I love her, we're forever. And just lucky they didn't get married and have babies. Because after 3 years of dating, of being big time in love, I guess we've lost Dawn. But after several years, I know some that dated 2, 3, 4 years.
I'm still around. Don't worry.
Huh? What'd you say?
Don't worry. I'm around.
I still didn't understand.
Yeah. I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It had a cross where it like it cut you off. But anyway, I was talking about, so like I said, this one girl, she's really in love with this guy. They've been dating 3 or 4 years. They understand each other. And all of a sudden, when they got out of high school and they started looking for a job, things began to change. And it just really got into some bad relationship. And it was pretty hot. And they were very peaceful people. But boy, it was like fire between the two of them. So things change. So when they get married, and then later on they discover, and I know some that, as far as I know, they're very faithful. And even preachers' wives. I've had several preachers' wives say things to me, and that It's just that later when people grow up, become 20, 25, they think differently, and that marriage is on the rocks. Number 7. Are they going to work? Are they missing work, or are they working together very well and at work? Number 8, are they socializing and mixing with people? Or are they wrapped up in their problems and don't associate too much? That happens a lot. Are they making a lot of excuses? And, and this becomes difficult because you've got to stop the excuses, and you have to find out, and this is where good questions come in to help you out. But the excuses, you have to get that stopped. Excuses is worth about a half a peso. It almost means nothing. You're either going to do it or you don't. And because excuses can just actually excuses, if it's a couple sitting in front of you and they're making excuses, sometimes the dislike for each other gets heavier, gets stronger while they're sitting there with you. Number 10 is, do they have the capacity? Are they able to relax? Or is there tension all the way through their marriage or their whatever the relationship is? So do they have the ability, and are they at peace enough they can relax? Because some people, when they get into problems, never relax. It's on their mind all day long, 24 hours a day. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but a lot of times people say, I just can't sleep. I get to thinking about our problem, I can't sleep. And I had sometimes a wife or a husband will tell me he gets up in the middle of the night because he just can't settle down. So the number 11, is there a deeper awareness of God? And I said before that sometimes you have to watch it, what part you come in to talk about God or Christianity. So you kind of have to watch that. And during my time with them, I've discovered at what point I can start talking about God and his view about relationships. Now I made a scale of 1 to 10. When I'm done with that session, I'm done with that middle phase of counseling, now I can rate it. And if I find I'm less than 7 on my, now this is a scale I made up, a scale of 10. But if I find it at this point under 7, I think there's something wrong here, that I don't have good information. I misunderstood the problem. There's a number of things that I can go, both me and them, because I got to find out why they're not higher on that scale. Which leads me to the next thought. Our final thought is, you want to watch out. You want to watch out that you're not being led astray. And that is that sometimes people are good at this. They will blame. It's what we call the blame game. And that is that they'll stick to that, and they'll twist it. They'll twist the information to make them look good and the other one wrong. I even had one woman one time said, he is always wrong and I'm always right. Isn't that something? I don't know anybody that's always right. Maybe some think they are, but I don't know of anybody that's that perfect, that they're always right. Well, that takes care of that part. That's just some goals that I found relevant for the middle phase of counseling. Now, all of that is, all of them items, all 11 of them I mentioned, are not always everything there is wrong. It's those are different areas where I've seen and experienced a lot of the problems. So that list is pretty relevant. Okay. I'm on my page 4 of my notes, which I don't know if it's yours, but that's one section where it says there are 4 areas to help with continual evaluation. Now, your evaluation, at whatever point you do it, should be a very important part for you in a counseling session. It's right under where there's a circle on the note, on the right side of the paper. And do you have it there? Where there are 4 areas to help with continual evaluation: love, rapport, compassion, and understanding. That's there. Okay. I want to put this in there. Dignity. The dignity of a person. Are you writing?
Yes.
Well, you don't look at anything, you just write. Huh? Just write.
Yeah,
Don't worry
I'm
about
writing.
anything.
Dignity
The
of a
dignity
person.
of a person is centralized through human experience. Centralized through human experience. This is where they develop their ethics, their religious, number one is their religious theology or their religious ideology. They develop their moral codes. They develop their moral codes. Number three, their intelligence is limited. Number four is their freedom. And then number five is the control of their emotions. And I will talk
Come
about
again, sir.
emotions.
Control of.
Huh?
Come again about control, number 5.
Control emotion.
Oh.
Okay.
Now there's two sides of emotions, and I'll talk about that later. But it's not all bad. So when all of this, between love, rapport, compassion, and understanding, when all of that breaks down, God is lost in the I don't know if you understand what it is. God is lost, I call it, in the shuffle of life. God is lost in, what I want to say, maybe everyday life. Now, whatever their view is, there are two things that's going on here. You got a view. What is your view of God? And what is their view of the environment, or what is the view they get from the environment? What is their view they have of God? And what is the view that the society or the environment or whatever has a view? Okay, you got a Bible handy?
Sure.
All right, how about going to the book of Proverbs that you're supposed to be reading? Proverbs chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. Hear, my son, your father's instructions, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Indeed, they are a graceful wreath to your head, an ornament about your neck. So if you interpret that, it's just saying that then that your wisdom comes from listening and I think being devoted to God. This makes a good sermon. I know, well, anyway. And then chapter 6, versículo 20. My son, observe the commandment of your father, and do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Let's read. And then in chapter 10, Proverbs 10 and 1. 10:1. The Proverbs of Solomon, a wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is a grief to his mother. And now you may wonder why I do Proverbs. Proverbs has a nickname called Tricky Sayings. Tricky Sayings. But if you look at them there, you see a strong, when you read it, there's strong information about, as far as I'm concerned, totally of relationships. I think Psalms is great for that. So when you're looking at them and talking with whoever it might be, I'm asking myself, are they living in the area of the objective or subjective? Is their manners and their lifestyle subjective or objective? Oh, I want to mention in a box that's coming, but it'll be 3 months getting there to Rochelle. I've got to send it to Rochelle. There will be a thesaurus in there for each of you. And have you ever used a thesaurus? Well, I don't know how to explain it. Wayne, can you explain this? It gives you a choice of words that makes more of an impact in a sentence. And I use it every day. I got to get a new one. I've got it so worn out. And but it's coming.
What was it you asked, Wes?
Huh?
What was it you asked? Well, what do you want me to explain?
Oh, I was going to say maybe to explain a thesaurus.
The what?
Taurus.
Thesaurus?
Thesaurus.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Thesaurus. It's it takes words that are. It gives you a list of words that are alike, have the same kind of meaning. In other words, it would, let's say you've used the word.
Thesaurus.
It would give you words that might be replaced, like, let's say you had the word opportunity. Well, maybe it would come up with words like challenging or a challenge. They could be words that could be used possibly in that interchange.
Okay, thank you.
Thesaurus, yeah.
So when okay, you guys are missing out if you're not going to be reading Proverbs. It can be a lot of help to you as a preacher. And I know a lot of people don't touch Proverbs, but it's got a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you're talking here about love, rapport, compassion, and understanding, a separation of husband and wife, they're not living together. It breaks down everything that we're talking about. Breaks down love, rapport, compassion, and understanding. There's really nothing left there. If the man leaves the wife, for whatever reason, and you know it, and I know it, Filipinos use the excuse of divorce. You can't get a divorce when you can get a divorce. And but if a guy leaves the woman, and with these children, then all of this other is broken down. The family unit is broken. So there's some factors involved here. There is that's damaged, and that's health. H-E-L-T-H, health. I try to spell words, so because my mouth don't sound too clear sometimes. Trust. One is health. Second is trust. 3. Number 3 is new image. And number 4 is new structure. When there is a separation, these are 4 areas that I believe are the main areas of damage to the family. The health of children often is damaged. The trust of the mother, don't trust anybody anymore. And then the family as a unit now has a new image. There's a mom and children. The father is out, and it's a damage to the image of God. And then number 4, new structure. Now the wife has to realign, redesign the family. And what are some of the big problems there? The man leaves. What happened? A new
Absence of
structure.
father
Now-
figure.
Huh?
If the father leaves, there will be the loss of father image, or yeah.
Okay, what else?
The foundation of the family, the provider.
Okay, what else? Okay, just stop and think of a man, woman, and 3 children. The woman has been a housewife and a good one. The man leaves, and what happens? I know you know this. Don't be afraid to talk.
Chaos.
Huh?
Chaos.
Yeah. Well, money. What about an income for her and the children?
No more.
No more. So what does that do? She has to restructure her and the 3 children. And I know in the Philippines, guys will leave a wife, never pay any money. I know one that's lived with 8 in Mindanao. My first experience of this there is a guy had 8 women. How much, I asked him, how much does it cost him to have 8 women? and a family. And he doesn't do anything because he don't send any money because he didn't like the woman. That's a poor excuse because them children don't need to be shot or damaged because the husband don't like the wife. So all of these problems now change. But when you look at that, now I didn't go into a lot of areas on this, but if there is a separation, then you have the 4 areas that I mentioned: health, trust, new image, and new structure will be there. And that woman has to now figure out how to feed this family. When you go to, there's some in Ormoc, but when you go to Manila, when you go into some areas, how many young people, little children, 15 and under, are there begging for money? Now, some of them, it may be a job, but a lot of them, that's because they need money and has been not raised. Every one of them that I've talked with that hang around the hotels up there, every one of them talks about there's no money coming in, they have to do it, and they just live out on the street by the thousands. That's because the structure was torn up and there was that separation, and this is what happened. And it breaks down everything out from God is love, rapport, compassion, and understanding. That's all gone. The next thing there, it's in your outline, is spiritual, religious, the spiritual religious area is the next thing I just want to just briefly go through. One is community. So as a counselor, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking of when I have community there, it's meaning people that I have asked to join me in counseling. And that's why I have friends. I have a CPA as a friend. I have other preachers. I have a couple of attorneys, lawyers that will work with me and give their time, because when I'm looking at people, a lot of times there's a lot of areas there that I feel somebody is better than I am. And sometimes when the couple, their biggest problem is finances. They are bad in spending money. I had one family that they'd been married a year and no children, and they were what we call at each other's throat all the time, like they're wanting to kill each other. And it was getting worse. And so I looked at it, and what happened was their money was not good. And she couldn't understand this because he made a big salary, very educated and very good job. Well, he was watching and was paying for porno on the internet. And he was spending like $500-700 a month on watching porno. I mean, I would think a newlywed would have better sense and be occupied enough. They wouldn't need to watch some porno. Well, we got to talking, and I figured out, and I counted up his money and their needs, and it's still, he made enough money. It should have been left to take care of him. But ended up, she was watching porno. This is the truth. They were spending $2,000 and $3,000 a month on watching pornographic movies or whatever they watch. So we had a lot of work. So I brought in a CPA, a friend of mine, and he started working on it and laid out a plan for them to get out of debt and so on. And as far as I know, they're still together. But we had to start a process just to say, well, it's over. You two have a good time, enjoy each other. That isn't the end, because now they've lost the idea of loving each other. So we had a lot of work to do. I spent over a year with them, at least 2 to 3 visits a month. But the point I'm getting at here is that I brought in a CPA, and because he could instruct them more on the money than I could, I felt. And so he was a big help, and that would be community, where you have other people helping out in different situations. Not just that kind of thing, but all kinds of problems. Sometimes other people, and it might be a family member. Don't be too proud not to ask somebody to help in that. And the supplement, I got there, just use activities. Sometimes if I've got a couple, I give them exercises. I almost have them, almost everybody I counsel, to read the Proverbs. Sometimes the book of Philippians. What is their belief? One thing is the dignity of a marriage or an individual is gone. Especially when I see how they compare their human experience to develop their ethics, or their situation to develop their ethics. So human experience is something that you always fight in most cases. The next thing there I have is a pastoral counseling is a continual evaluation. And so you as a counselor, you have to make sure that you have you're making honest choices and an honest relationship, and to be honest with the people. And that is that when you counsel somebody, when you leave that counseling room, you shut your mouth. You don't talk to anybody about their problem at all. And especially your wife, the wife. I started counseling back in the early 70s. About 78, year 1978. And to this day, my wife would tell you that she knows nothing about anybody, anything that anybody that I dealt with, because that's you and them, and whoever you get to collaborate with. Now, what I do, and in some cases, if I have a young woman come in, I have an elder that are very mature Christians, and he'll stand not in my office or anywhere, but he'll be outside the office listening to the conversation. Everybody with me?
Yes.
But my wife is not going to try to talk to me and influence me and tell me who I can and can't do. And also, why would I not invite my wife? Why would I not invite my wife?
I don't know.
Okay. Mainly, so we don't have jealousy come in. When jealousy comes in, you're done. The first time that comes out, it's best just forget counseling until that is fixed. And sometimes some women, and I know Filipinos, and I know Filipinos where the wife wants to know every inch of what that preacher does. And if that's the case, you might as well quit counseling. If I need advice on something, I will get, my first choice is to stick with the elders of my church because they're developed, they are mature, they're Christians, and I know they'll be silent. The next thing is I may get another preacher friend or somebody else to talk to. But I don't involve my wife because she is completely, you could ask her in probably, I don't know, 400 or 500 counseling sessions. She has never been in one. Now, once in a while, if I'm with a couple and or a woman, about a week later, now I got a question from my wife. I want to hear a woman's viewpoint. But my wife is not involved in any of that. And if you do, you're starting something. I don't care what the wife says. You're starting something you may not be able to whip. Because there's basically some women who talk. I remember a couple, mainly a couple had a son about 18, 19, I think he was starting college, and the best I can remember. And so I thought we were going to talk about the son because she was upset about the son. It ends up in there that she was having affairs, and this dog here she is supposed to be a deacon's wife, and boy, we had something. If my wife had heard all that, whoo, I don't know what she would have done. She probably would beat me in the head. But I had to work with that woman. And the second time she came in, I had an elder outside the door listening because she indicated to me that she's ready for Freddie. And I don't want to get involved in that. This would be under collaboration. And collaboration is a good thing. It's not a bad. It does no influence on the counselor that he can't do it. But sometimes another idea or another thought is good to hear. Because sometimes you get your mind straight and going, and it's just not enough. So I set that up. Special services. I select special services. And I have to watch out when I use special services on the different ages of the people that are here to come to see me for counseling. So there's a variety of ages, and this here's another area where it's good to train life coaches in your church. Life coaches are very valuable. You may not be familiar with it, but it's different people in the church that has gotten training for counseling, either you or a professional, a counselor. There's a lot of different ways you can get. I know some counseling agencies that have now created a program to listen to on DVD, and it's really been pretty effective. So you have your life coaches. I like to see a man and a woman, and maybe anywhere from 2 or 3 women, 2 or 3 men that are capable. The church I attend, they have 2 elders that are very capable of counseling, and they do most of the counseling in the church. The preacher does a lot, but there's also about 5 or 6 women that can handle that task, and they're prepared. So 8, 10 counseling sessions out of that church, the preacher may do 2 of them or 3, but the life coaches get a bulk of the people, and they are very valuable. When I was at Rockford, I trained in the late 70s, early 80s. I forget now, but I think it was 7 or 8 people that I trained for life coach. And it was interesting how that one of them went on and into interpretation for the TV station, especially for news. And so anyway, she did that, and then they gave her, the TV station gave her 10 minutes at news time to go over things about counseling and her availability for that. So it doesn't have to be the preacher. I know that's against Filipino structure, but you need to spread out. If I got 2 or 3 people that can do things as good as I can, I got 2 or 3 different things, 2 or 3 more pieces of work I can do, not just me. So, okay, we'll close up here in a couple of minutes.
What's wrong?
So, but if you have a consultant, I have their number 4. The thing about a consultant, or if you develop a coach or whatever you have to work with you, the main thing is you're building up people, and the preacher in the church can build up people to do different things, and it's quite an exciting thing to see them in action and see the results of what they do. Sometimes other family members can be a big help. And I'm very particular. And that's why in counseling, a lot of times I'm a preacher and I don't have to worry about leaving my office or anything else. But I can meet different family members that I've heard the counselee talk about seem to have a trust in there, and I can use that person to help with some of the different or the difficulties that I see with this couple or this one person. So it's your choice and your wisdom that allows you to spread out and use other people. And sometimes, like I said, the church I attend now, it has 2 elders and at least 4 or 5 women or something like that. I've never counted,
Yeah.
that are very effective and do a good job at the church. In fact, the women in our Sunday school class, most of the women and young women and new members go to them before they do the preacher. Which goes down to my next thought, cooperative relationships with other people. And I mentioned about the elders and people in church, and as people that I'm working with, I want to make sure that they're able to take over, that they can do the counseling. And in fact, I have one right now a woman in church that I've doing some things with her for a young woman and a new member at the church. And I got a couple women I'm phone calling, and then that way the preacher don't have to spend his time there, so that he's got other areas that he can deal with and running the church. This is just another form of collaboration and of working together. And this I'll tell you what, any preacher that won't help build up some men to be elders is a fool. Good elders are worth everything that you can think about. I would not take, well, it's not, that's a bad one, but I cherish elders. Sometimes I've spent 6, 8 months in a couple churches just to build up elders. Excuse me, and why? Because they can do a lot of things. In fact, when I left Rockford, the elders went down to Belvedere, which is where Chrysler Automotive car manufacturer is. It's a good sized area, and they started a church. They done all the preaching, I understand, for over a year, and they ran the church. So elders are very special people, and I can't say enough. And the Filipino preachers that are not building up elders, I'm talking about building up elders to do a job, is foolish. I don't know what else to say about it. And it's hard to appreciate that kind of thing, and holding back from elders. And if the church is over 2 years old and don't have good working elders, it's foolish, just foolish. And it's more a biblical pattern. And and then you'll find, generally you find a better growing church, because a church ought to have a minimum of 50 additions every year. That should be the minimum. And but if you're not going to work the church, it ain't going to happen. All right. One of the things I wanted to do, and Wayne was going to give me extra time, and that I got a good video, and we're going to see if we can get it working. Now, I don't know if you will like it. I'm going to ask you first. It's not a video. It's a study by a counseling agency, and it's all talk. You think you could listen for 40 minutes? and I'm sure it's hard, but it's 40 minutes long, and it covers spiritual development, a little counseling, and a few other. I think it has 4 different areas, and what did I do? And
Padala ng video eh.
oh, here it is. It covers leadership, psychology, and coaching, and then some challenges for the future. And maybe I wouldn't do that one, but I would do all them others. I could do maybe 35 minutes. You think you would be able to listen just listen for 35 minutes?
It will take us to 11 o'clock here, evening.
I'm not talking about now.
Time.
I'm talking about
Oh.
later time. But there's no video. It's all just listening to what they say. I just thought it might be of some help. But maybe the next time I could use it. And the last part I could cut off, and that would probably make it 30, right at 30 minutes maybe even less. I don't know. I'd have to look at my video, my thing here, and maybe I could work it out a little bit better.
No, it's
Maybe
all right,
25 minutes. Huh? It's good stuff,
Video.
but it could be boring.
Okay.
All right, I'll plan on that. Well, let me go over the goals quick, and that'd be it for today.
Good.
Huh?
But I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Now, in your area, is the problematic person will come to the counselor or the minister will go to the problematic person?
Actually, if I understand, do they come to me or do I go to them?
Yes.
Yeah. I would rather them come to me. But sometimes, now like now, since I quit my big office and went to a smaller one, I go to the church and use one of the Sunday school rooms there.
Mhm.
Go to their house, I can do that. I do it, but only certain ones. I'm very picky, and I won't go to a woman's house.
Yeah.
I will not go there without help. And then a lot of them say no, they don't want anyone to come with me. And because one thing is I want to help them. But on the other hand, I want to help myself. I don't want to create a problem. And you have to be very careful of that. And you're very careful. And I can tell you, I learned the hard way. That if you say things that you have to be very careful. And don't ruin your name, your reputation, or anything. But I got out of a situation, and the parents helped me out, and well, I was glad of that because I thought this will ruin me. But it was a misunderstanding on the girl's part, and she was, oh my God, this thing got big, and so I got out of it, and I've never heard anything about it since. And there was nothing going on. I didn't do anything. And it was a pretty wild girl. And the parents, they asked me to help, and she was wild. And so I couldn't help it. And that I should have known to not be alone with a wild girl. So, any questions so far? You guys don't ever have much questions.
Now, so far, and been a long time for, say, a preacher, But in us in the Philippines, nobody will approach us if they're problematic, but sometimes they will go to the psychiatrist
Yeah,
because it is professional. But I never have any entertain some problems with the church,
right.
means, but church family, but they will come when it comes to doctrinal. They will come to me.
Yeah. Only thing I would suggest is that's fine. But the only thing I would suggest would be just to make sure you protect yourself. When I go to that kind of thing, I rehearse or practice what I'm going to say and who I'm going to talk to and all that. And then I pretty well stick to that and just watch myself because you can sometimes if you make somebody mad, they're going to get even. And you don't want that. Believe me, you don't want it. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but just make sure you're protecting yourself because you have to think of yourself too. So, all right. Well,
Okay, thank you.
huh?
I have sent my examination to your
You're breaking up.
I emailed to you about the undang nata.
It's only two of us now, students. Other, lost their signal.
Is there what?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, well, have a good night,
Yeah.
a good day. Well,
Yeah.
good night.
Today is 3.
I'll
So
see you next
no
week.
class on the 24 and 31.